Beastmaster could be exactly what Final Fantasy XIV needs, but it probably won't be. Hello Void, it's Eldon, and today we're going to talk about Beastmaster. If you enjoy what I have to say, please subscribe and all that. I could do more here, but what's the point really? Subscribe or don't. We're here to talk about Beastmaster today, baby! Beastmaster is, hopefully, the next limited job coming to 14. I mean, we're past 7.4 and we don't have a date for it, but I hope it's still coming. It will follow Blue Mage, creating a newish way to play the game. If I'm being honest, I enjoyed Blue Mage. I only did it during Dawn Trail, so I spent most of my time with it power leveling to like 70, then getting enough spells to go through the Masked Carnival. But it was pretty fun. I enjoyed the Masked Carnival fights. They were all super interesting, providing neat little puzzles inside of 14. But Blue Mage was not really substantive content. I would say I got about as much enjoyment out of it as I would a few levels of an exploration zone. And that's not the kind of content that can save 14. Looking ahead at Beastmaster, my expectation for it is that there will be a bunch of different animals, some around the overworld, some in dungeons. You can fight those animals, capture them, and then use them like abilities, copying their skills and combining different skills to be more effective. If we're lucky, we'll get some sort of pet mechanic, maybe similar to Old Summoner. Not new Old Summoner, but like old Summoner. And that could be interesting. Honestly, it could be really interesting. Honestly, it could be revolutionary. I really like the idea of limited jobs. Final Fantasy XIV is a vast game. Unlike many other MMOs, it doesn't sunset its content. Most of the different activities, most of the dungeons, most of the areas remain at least somewhat relevant despite their age. And this is primarily due to the roulette system, keeping all of the dungeons and trials in rotation, even for the most seasoned of players. Yet despite this vast breadth of content, 14 remains largely the same game throughout. The core gameplay loop, the way you approach each dungeon, is quintessentially the same. I mean, it's literally pull, boss, pull, boss, pull, boss. This remains throughout, all the way from ARR to the newest Dawn Trail patch. And the different jobs you can play to face these challenges remain largely the same. You're pressing buttons in the right order, dodging mechanics, and trying to perform the correct DPS rotation to beat the encounter as efficiently as possible. These same cycles exist across every single job. You get some variation when you switch roles. A healer has to care about slightly different things than a DPS or a tank, but at the end of the day, you're still basically just damaging and dealing with mechanics as they come. You're one guy on a board, dodging all the yellow circles. A limited job has the opportunity to change this dynamic. The concept of a limited job is something that plays the game fundamentally different, that cares about doing different things, and that can re-explore all of the content in the game with newer, fresher eyes. If I'm being honest, this concept, the concept of limited jobs, is genius. If you can create a brand new way to play 14 inside of the game, you can leverage all of the existing content to provide expansions worth of new stuff to do. If a limited job is a fun and enjoyable experience, if it's complex and different, and if the leveling for it requires you to experience a wide breadth of content, then a limited job could be like playing the game from start again, but new and different. It could be a revelation. In my ideal world, Beastmaster would not play like a normal job. You would not be focused around grinding experience. And well, actually there still would be the gotta catch 'em all aspect, that's pretty fun. But that wouldn't be the primary focus of Beastmaster like it is for Blue Mage. Instead, your main goal would be to overcome certain challenges for every level increment. There would be a series of challenges you'd have to face. I imagine the interface is kind of like the Zodiac weapon books. You have a list of duties you have to overcome, a list of monsters you have to defeat, and maybe even a couple special solo duties for you to complete. Doing one of these sets of challenges would give you an increment of levels. Let's say 10 levels per book. This means that in order to master Beastmaster, you would have to overcome 10 different levels of trials, kind of like the gyms in Pokemon. In order to do this, you would need to capture different beasts. Each one would have different moves, perhaps different affinities. You could level up your different beasts by completing challenges, bonding with them, or maybe just grinding, though I'm not huge on the grinding. Your beasts would be level capped at the challenge you are facing, so you can't out-level it. After each challenge, you'd have to either grind up your current team or catch new monsters to add to your roster. Hell, if we're feeling really spicy, Once you beat all of the challenges and get to level 100, you could prestige, giving up all of your monsters and resetting back down to level 1 to face it again. We could add in permadeath Nuzlocke type challenges. I know this sounds ambitious, but I want to remind you that all of these theoretical challenges would largely compromise pre-existing duties. You'd have to clear Cutter's Cry for a level 30 fight, specific monsters out in the wilderness that are already there. The Beastmaster kit should be able to interact with the pre-existing systems of Final Fantasy XIV, but in a new way. And how do I envision it actually working? Well, I don't want it to just be a hotbar filled with new special abilities that's not different enough from what 14 is currently like. It needs to feel like a new game inside the game we already have. I don't think even just having a pet system would really do it. Here's my idea. You have a certain number of beasts in your squad. Each beast has a basic move that does minimal damage, plus some other more powerful moves on a longer cooldown. When you're in battle, you control your beast, moving it around and having to dodge attacks as if you were them, as if they are your character. At any point, you can swap between beasts by pressing a button. So your goal would be to create a balanced team and actively swap in response to mechanics. If the enemy is running a tank buster, swap to the tank beast. If they're doing a charge up move, you can swap to one with high single target damage, but not a lot of mobility. If you need to move really fast, you can switch to one with a mobility ability. If one of your beasts dies, it's KO'd, but you automatically swap into the next beast in your rotation. So you only lose when all of your beasts have been KO'd. This changes the fundamental dynamic of 14 from stay alive to tactically sacrifice certain monsters. You have to think about what roles you need for which mechanics coming up. You need to think about how to manage your cooldowns between different beasts. And you need to think about what team comp you're bringing. You can have a bunch of guys with big burst moves and maybe one-shot a boss, but if you do that and the boss survives, then you have to survive with no cooldowns for 2 minutes before you have a chance of hitting them again. You can have a setup monster that increases your damage, and then swap into a big DPS monster, but then have to swap into a tank monster really quick just to survive. It provides so much different gameplay that is different from what we already have, but it still interacts with the core systems of 14. Now, do I think they are going to do this? Do I think they're going to make something this expansive? Absolutely not. I sadly do not have that much faith in Square Enix at the moment. I don't think they'll create something this big, but I do think the limited job as an idea has this potential. It could be the thing that saves 14 because a limited job has the possibility of reframing all the stuff we already have. Except for, like, the story, most of the content in 14 should be replayable. But at this current point in time, it isn't really. Everything is kind of the same. If we introduce a new way to play the game, then all of a sudden, the content that we have that was the same as everything else becomes vastly new and different. It's almost like we've doubled the amount of things you can do in the game. And if a limited job is interesting, then the game becomes more interesting. Do they have to make Beastmaster the way I described for this to be true? No. Absolutely not. I think it would be fun. I like my idea, but I'm not going to hold on to it as a specific version of what something should be. If they don't have the budget or the resources, or they have a different vision than basically recreating Pokemon 1-for-1 inside of Final Fantasy XIV, good for them. I won't be upset, but I do want them to make something interesting, something unique, something that messes with the fundamental way in which Final Fantasy XIV plays, so that they can actually make use of what a limited job should be. A new normal job is just one other way to play the game as it currently is. A limited job should be a way to play the game as it's never been before. That's the true potential of the limited job. That's why Beastmaster could save 14. And honestly, if I end up with just another big checklist of all the different dungeons to clear off and a bunch of beasts to find and catch them all and level up to 80 and maybe a new version of a mass carnival, I'm going to be substantially disappointed. The job should not just be something added on to 14. It should not just feel like a lame version of some pre-existing job or some combination of new skills to do old content the same way. Beastmaster should feel new. Limited jobs should feel interesting, like some brand new way to play the game. They have the potential to be the most fun thing here, so let them be. They probably won't, but they could, and they should. Anyway, that's been me, Void. Thank you for making it this far, and thank you for listening to my ramblings and random hopes that will almost certainly never come true. If you have any thoughts about Beastmaster, if you're excited or trepidatious, please leave them in the comments below. If you have any other gripes with 14, you can also leave them there too. I'm all ears. If you liked what I had to say, or want to hear more thoughts from me about this game, then please subscribe. I love seeing the number go up, and only you have the power to make it so. But even if you don't, just remember, it's a long road out there, Void, so take it easy, and catch 'em all. Ta-ta!